This is Football Connect Top Corner Football Podcast. This is episode 10 of the podcast. Hopefully, you've noticed that the certain episodes do not exist. They do exist in our saved folders on our PCs and hard drives. As always, I'm here with uh, Nsangu. How have you been?
No, I've been okay, man. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. Away from the football, I've tried. Recently had the pleasure of watching Spike Lee's new movie, Highest to Lowest, with Denzel and Jeffrey Wright. What have you been up to yourself?
Well, I think other than football, I've been engulfed in books, man. We went back to school, so it's a boring affair other than football.
Okay, okay. So, school, education, and seeing Zambia losing. I wouldn't be want to be you right now. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Um, we saw Zambia's tiny glimmer of hope get extinguished by a second string Morocco side on Monday afternoon. A weird time to have a game. What did you did you have any hope before the game?
I swear, and you're the problem. I think leading to the game, way earlier, I never had any hopes. But when I sat down and listened to a few remarks from you and looked at the numbers as well, I gained a bit of hope, thinking Zambia would push hard and try and qualify to the World Cup. But again, looking at how the first president came out, I think those were indications to say uh, qualifying to the World Cup is not a priority for the national team right now.
So you are blaming me for
Yeah,
having
not
hope in.
yeah, not entirely blaming you, but you do take part of the blame. Yeah.
Are you also going to blame me for your prediction on where Zanaco is going to finish in the table at the end of the season?
No, no, no. That is fully owned by me, and we can talk about that later. So let's talk about the national team right now.
I'm not going to allow you to forget that. I'm not going to allow you to forget that. I've in fact saved the video, and we are going to show in case the fans didn't see what you said about who's going to get relegated this season. We're going to bring that back. But on a serious note, back to the discussion. How did I tried? I couldn't watch the game live myself, so because of the timing. Obviously, it was a bit difficult. But I tried to watch a replay in the evening. You watching it live, what did you make of the performance? Forget the result for a second. What did you make of the performance itself?
Well, it was it was a weird timing that game was being played on a Monday afternoon, and it was amazing that fans turned out in those numbers because I wasn't expecting fans to turn out like that. But anyway, reacting to the game itself, it had a lot of emotions, and when the players just stepped foot onto the pitch, there was this aura around fans thinking, the Polo Polo was going to deliver this time around, but it only took 8 minutes for them to go down by a silly mistake. And I think we keep on talking about the same things. Uh, that pass shouldn't have been played in the middle by Tostan Sabata. We saw Tandi Mwapi. Oh, sorry. Kabaso Chongo was open on the left side. He could have easily played in Kabaso Chongo's path, and then we would have been talking about another thing right now. So, but generally, I know after Zambia went down early, and after 25 minutes, the game kind of settled, and we saw Zambia had most of the possession. And a lot of people said Zambia played well, but from my observation, I think Morocco managed that game well. It wasn't about Zambia playing well, but it was just about Morocco managing that game very well. And for the fact that, as you mentioned earlier, that was like a second Moroccan squad. That wasn't the first choice because they made 6 changes to that team, and we failed to have proper chances on goal.
To create, yeah, they couldn't create enough. Barely created enough chances. Barely created chances at all. 72% ball possession. 4 shots on target to 3. 9 shots to 9. Zambia's passing accuracy is around 84%. Tunisia's,
Well,
Morocco's passing accuracy was below 70. These stats, you still contend that Zambia did not play well.
well, what I'm saying is this. I'm not saying that Zambia didn't play well. What I'm just saying is that when you're watching
They
the
were
game live,
they
definitely,
were allowed they were allowed
yes,
to play the way they by Morocco.
yes. All I'm saying is that Zambia was allowed to play the way they played because Morocco decided to sit down, or to sit back rather. Morocco decided to sit back and went forward intentionally,
Picked their moments.
yes, and picked their moments.
Morocco made 6 changes. In their in their win against Niger, the game they booked their place at the next year's World Cup. So the changes, Hakimi,
Diaz,
Asgard, not why did I call him Asgard? Diaz, or
it's
Brahim
Diaz,
Diaz. Brahim Diaz wasn't there. Agad, Masina, only Amrabat. Yeah,
and
a number
the
of players.
goalkeeper.
A number of play, the goalkeeper also retained his place, but in general, the players you would think are stars. I think only Neseri is the only one who was in the team. Amrabat and Amrabat probably. Those are the players you'd expect to be starting a key game. And this was a dead rubber for them. It was, I would say, what would we call that? A rather academic uh, process for them. Uh, wow. Because they had, uh, wow. Now, looking at this World Cup campaign, um, before we came on, you said something interesting. So, in the last 2 World Cups campaigns, Zambia only lost 2 home matches. And
Yep.
in this World Cup campaign, Zambia has lost as many matches as they did in the last two. That is because they only lost 1 game to Nigeria in 2018, that famous game at Levi Mwanawasa Stadium, where Iwobi and Inacho were just a class above. And then in the run up to in the 2022 qualifying campaign, they only lost 1 game to Tunisia as well. In this one, Zambia has lost to Tanzania and Morocco.
Yep.
They've only won 1 game in this particular campaign. And the other points are a result of disorganization in Congo Brazzaville. Basically, Zambia has only earned 3 points the entire campaign. How does this campaign compare to others?
So, when after Zambia lost, I took time to look at the numbers that we've generated in this campaign, and as you've put it, in the last two editions, in the last two qualifiers, rather, in the 2022 and 2018 qualifiers, you notice that Zambia only lost one home game, as you've put it, and like that, right? Now, when you look at the numbers for this campaign, we've played 6 games, and from the 6 games that we've played, we've only managed to amass 6 points, of which the other 3, that's adding to 6 points, were boardroom points given to us due to Morocco's. Due to
The Congo
Congo
Brazzaville
Brazzaville's. Yeah, Congo
failure to
Brazzaville's
fulfill the fixture.
ban. Yeah. So now, already we've lost 4 games in total. Okay, we've only managed to pick 3 points on the pitch, and you can't even boast about having the other 3 points being awarded, because those points definitely have nothing to do with what the coach has done.
With
And for me, yes, and for
yeah,
me,
it has
this
nothing to
campaign,
do with the team's performance.
no, and because of that, this has to be one of the worst campaigns that we've had so far. I'm not sure if they'll go on to win their match against.
What's really honestly what's the point? And then the other thing is Avram Grant has been available for the entire time. He's been
Yeah.
coach now for 3 years now.
Yes, he signed his contract in December 2022, and in 2023 he started this journey, or rather this project. It's been him from inception up to where we are, and this is what Avram Grant has done. He's won 1 game and lost 4 other games. I'm not going to credit him. We're not going to credit him the one which was awarded to him, but this is really bad. And I know, based off based off the last game that we've played, I know you wouldn't say that there's a lot of progress, because it's very difficult to see what kind of progress we're talking about here.
So, getting back to the game, the specifics of the game. We saw the return of Fashion Sakala. Patson Daka is also in the last AFCON qualifiers. He wasn't available. Kennedy Musonda was feeling it. What was the impact of these 2 players in your opinion? These are the biggest players, probably.
Yeah, definitely. These are the biggest players that we've had, and I, for one, have always been an advocate of having Fashion Sakala back into the team. But I'll be honest that in that game, particularly, Fashion Sakala didn't really live up to what I expected him to do. He didn't live up to my expectations because he had a bad game. And the fact that we had all of these our dependable forwards back, that brought a bit of hope to me. I thought that we would win this game, but it didn't turn out well.
Staying on the game, a blog site called Football Connect on Facebook, Football Connect Zambia, did player ratings. And these are the ratings for these are the following ratings. I'll get back to you. I want to us to talk about another big player next. Patson Daka got a 4 out of 10. Fashion Sakala 3.5 out of 10. I don't know who comes up with these ratings. Seven, uh, 7 out of 10 for Kings Kangwa, 3 for Emmanuel Banda, 5 for Lamek Banda, 3 for Miguel Chaiwa, 5.5 for Obinyo Chisala, 4 for Kawazo Chongo, 5 for Benson Zakala, Gift Mpande with a 6, and Tostan Sabata with a 3. I want to talk about the midfield first. Emmanuel Banda. I'd like to put this out there. No, nothing against Emmanuel Banda. He's one of my favorite players for this national team. But in the last 2 years, Emmanuel Banda has made 3 moves, 3 transfers. He moved to from Jugadens, Jugadens. Uh, he moved from Jugadens to Rijeka because he was lacking game time in Sweden. He went to Croatia at Rijeka. He started well but stopped playing. He was out of the team. No minutes for him. Then he moved to Saudi Arabia last year, and now he's gone to Israel. Should it? I feel like it's time we accepted that maybe he's not the same player he was, because in that time as well, while he was struggling to for game time at these different clubs, these are not super big clubs. They are not playing in the best leagues in the world, right? They are playing in lowly leagues, and
Yeah.
he's struggling to get game time at these clubs. And now he's in Israel, and in that period of 2 years as well, he had that terrible performance at the AFCON as well. I feel it's like it's not just one club. Maybe it's time to move on from Emmanuel Banda, in my opinion. Let others come in. Like we have young. I feel like every time he starts, it's a lot of work for Miguel Chaiwa in midfield.
Yeah, I think this was you could see this as well in the match. Miguel Chaiwa had a lot of space to cover, and he was exposed because you could see that Emmanuel Banda was off, and every time he tried to play long balls, the long balls couldn't find any of the players. They could only find the opponents, and that's a sign that he's
And previously this was his range of passing was his key facet, and he's failing to do that now. Like he could find
yes,
Fashion Sakala wherever he was on the pitch, right? Previously. But that
yes,
is not happening anymore.
because most of his long passes were being intercepted, and it adds more pressure to his fellow players in the midfield. You could see now King's Kanga was everywhere trying to cover him up, and also trying to join in defense to defend. And on few occasions, you could see it. It was difficult to see him play those basic 1-2 forward passes,
He
and
also
it
seemed to
exposed his
struggle to
strength.
get around the pitch. He's slower, isn't
Yes,
he? For a player of who showed, especially in the run up to the 2022 AFCON, I think he was probably our best player. I insisted on this. He was probably our best player just behind Fashion Sakala and Patson Daka. Maybe he was ahead of them, and for him to suddenly regress as he has, it's quite saddening. And I feel it's time we found solutions for the Emmanuel Banda problem, the Lubambo Msonda problem, and I feel it's about time. I think Faz number one, I think Faz has to make a board call and relieve Grant of his duties because he's not going to be the board person, not going to tell Emmanuel Banda and other senior players to it's they're about to move on from them. Because if you look at some of the substitutions he was making he was bringing on uh, Joseph Sabobo Banda in the 88th minute. When is he going to have? Because you're already 2 goals down, right? Uh, so Patson Daka, Fashion Sakala had poor performances as well. Um, but even Lamed Banda was poor as well. I feel the 5 was a generous rating. Um I think probably the only player who could walk out off that pitch with his head held high was probably Kings Kangwa, and he was wearing the armband. Let's talk about him for a minute here. Let's talk about him for a minute.
Yeah,
What did
he
you
deserved.
think of him wearing the armband? And
Well, I think for the past few games now, he's been the most consistent player for Chipolo Polo, and he's been the most creative player going forward, if we're being honest. And you could see it in that game as well, because every chance that almost led to a goal, every big chance that a Zambian player had, it was being delivered by Kings Kango. First of all, the header that uh, Patson Daka failed to score, or his header was saved. That header that was saved, Kings Kango was the one that put the ball into Patson Daka's path. The second chance Patson Daka also had, that should be in the second half, where he was played on one with the goalkeeper. That was Kings Kangwa. The header that Fashion Sakala missed at the far post, Kings Kango was the one that floated that ball into Fashion Sakala's path. So you could see that any anything that showed some glimmer of of positivity going on forward, it was Kings Kangwa engineering those moves. Most of the forward runs and the fouls that Zambia had around the 18-yard box of the opponent, it was Kings Kangwa who was being fouled. So
uh,
he
yeah, true.
he showed the
And this again goes into the merit most people want to talk about when it comes to selection of players. Um, I think I was telling you that I was trying to talk to you, telling you the other time that if we're going to start players, if we're going to talk about players in form, one of the forwards we can talk about is Songa Chipioka, right?
yeah.
Kings Kangwa, as we are talking about, he's been in good form for his club, right? And it is translating it, for the past 1 year now. He's been the best player for club and country. So his form for his club is translating at the national team. Lamek Banda had nothing against him, had uh, a rather on and off season last season because of injury. This season he hasn't started very well, right? So maybe start Songa Chipioka in his place. You know,
Yeah.
um, it's unfortunate that yeah, but it leads into red. Also, for Patson Daka has only played one competitive game this season. It's good he's back, but why? Why not bring him on maybe in the second half? Because he's only played one game, like I said. But Edward Chirufya has been playing more often and he's been more impactful for his club, right? So why not
Yeah.
lean into that? Why not lean into that? Uh, you know. So those are some of the things. Even Emmanuel Banda has only played 30 minutes for his club. He's only played, I think, 30 minutes, not more than an hour since he's gone to Israel. And when he came on, his team conceded last week. They were leading 2-1. Why not allow someone like who's been playing regularly to start ahead of him? You know, um, I've spoken many times about how well Ricky Chanda is playing. Why not have him in the team? Why not call players that are playing well by and large, playing well for their clubs? Same thing with Patson Dak. Certain people have said he shouldn't have started. The only problem I have with particularly Patson Dak is that we really do not have options, other options. Could have tried Kennedy Musonda, but I just don't feel like Kennedy Musonda works as hard off the ball as Patson Daka. You could start him as well. You could start Kennedy Musonda. He just scored 2 goals the other day for his club. So why not start players that are regularly playing, performing for their clubs?
Well, I think that should be the case in most instances, but we don't see that happening. Because honestly, I also tell you that even if Obinot Salah was substituted later on, I think he's one of the
Yes,
players.
that's a good question. Where is Obinoj Salah playing right now?
He's with Al Marek. Yeah, he's in
In,
Mauritania
in,
with Al Marek, and
okay.
he's one of their consistent players. So I think, and honestly, Obinot Salah's natural position is in the midfield, and I think he could be one of those players to replace Edward Chilufya in the midfield. But
Edward Chirufya, Emmanuel
nevertheless,
Banda. You mean Emmanuel Banda?
oh, oh yeah, I mean Emmanuel Banda. Yeah, he could be one of the players to replace Emmanuel Banda in the midfield. Nevertheless, he played really well in his left back position. You could see he was very composed and very calm. Each time he had the ball, he wasn't rushing a pass. He wasn't rushing his pass, and he picked his passes most of the times, picked the intended players.
So he played well,
He did play well.
and yet someone gave him a 5.5 out of 10. Okay, so okay, that aside, so this is where we are. We've seen Avram Grant and what he can do for 3 years now. He's he's been in charge of this World Cup campaign and only managed to win one game. He's lost 5 of the last 5 games, including the Chan tournament. We also saw Keith Mwemba so eloquently uh, espouse uh, his vision for Zambian football. His apparent enthusiasm to start building for the next World Cup qualifying campaign in 2013, and saying we should use the games that remain to start that process of building, right? And we've also
Yeah.
mentioned how many players we feel like maybe it's time to move on from them. Do you think all these players coming up like Ricky Chanda, Songa Chipioka, Joseph Liteta, eh, uh, Insiku Mafuenta, Matthews Banda, David Amasenia, Gift Siame, they are littered, they are dotted all across the globe right now. The young players are being bought early. They are leaving for Europe much, much earlier. Do you think Avram Grant is the man to handle this talent, this new influx of talent?
The surprising thing about Avram Grant is that he's gone on and he always talks about Zambia playing well when we have players in Europe. But it's actually strange that when you see him implement his project, it talks about something different. Yes, Avram Grant, when he calls these young lads to the national team, we know he will always stick to Emmanuel Banda. We know he will always call on
Kabaso
he will
Chongo.
always call on Lubambo Msonda or Kabaso Chongo. And if you remember very well, it took him long to move on from Benedict Chepeshi on the right back and Lubambo Msonda playing on the right wing.
Also took a sending off for him to move away from Rodri Kawe.
Yes, so it took an injury to move on from Lubambo Msonda and bring on Lamek Banda. And now we have a problem again. It's difficult for him to bring in these new players because if I was him, or if you look at the way the game is, Zambia is already out of the World Cup. So the remaining 2 games can be used to play these young lads, but I don't think it's going to be the case. Joseph Sabobo only featured in the national team because Lamek Banda was out, injured,
And
and we
Fashion
never had
Sakala was
many.
banned.
Yes, and Fashion Sakala was banned, and he didn't have any other option but just to use those kids. So he doesn't have. I think Grant doesn't have the vision of blending those kids and trusting them enough to deliver. He only falls on them as a fallback plan when his usual regular players are not available. If they are available but are not fit, he'll still play them.
You know,
So, in
he
other
would have
ways,
probably played the Kambamba had he been fit.
yes, yes. So, I think talking about the kids, talking about the Haman seniors, it's good that he was named in the final squad. Looking at integrating the other kids like Ricky Chanda into the national team is the far-fetched reality with Avram Grant. Yes, he'll call them maybe on paper, but the
But
only time he can give them a chance is when he need they are his fallback plan, not that he'll prioritize them and integrate them into the team. I don't think that's the case.
I would agree with that. I think we've seen enough um, from the man to see that he's unqualified to lead Zambia's next stage of development. And the longer we keep him in the job, I feel like the more we regress as it because like I've said several times, Zambia's key facet has always been not to fear anyone they play, to always play their game, to compete, to it has I might even maybe the best player that illustrates how Zambia has always played is probably Christopher Katongo, the 2012 AFCON winning captain. And Christopher Katongo was not the most talented player on the pitch. I think many people can agree with that. He was not the most skillful player. He was not the biggest player on the pitch, but he always wore his heart on his sleeve and left everything on the pitch. Played without fear. And I feel like this is the one thing that Avram Grant has taken away from Zambian football and the Zambian national football team. They play as the second best team in each and every game they play. Doesn't matter the opponent. And when you do not always have the best tools available, when you face a team like Morocco, you stand no chance if you're not courageous. If you do not play, if you cower at the first time, because if you remember, do you remember what this Avram Grant said before we even started the qualifiers? He said Zambia was looking to finish second, and when you aim for second, you finish fourth, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's I feel it's a shame, but I think I think Faz has to take a very bold decision and move on from Avram Grant. Um, I think the BBC did a very nice speech piece. I don't know if you've seen it on how African countries are now, as of the countries that were involved in World Cup qualifiers this weekend, along this international break, 25 are now using local coaches.
Oh,
And I think, yes, and I think uh, the, the last few AFCONs have been won by local coaches. Senegal with Cisse, Faye last year with the Ivory Coast, and Algeria also in 2019 won with a local coach. So if the fear is that we don't have money, maybe there's no money for an expatriate coach, maybe try a local young coach and build from there. Anyway, that's how I feel. So it's a very interesting piece by the BBC. You should try to read it.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll look.
anyway, that I think that's all we had for today. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I think we can close it here. We've spoken a lot. Uh, I think at the end of it all, Grant aliyefaa ikashow kumtanika. He should go.
All right, Mr. Zangu. We end here. I hope. What are you planning to watch? What is on your watch list for the coming week?
Um, for the coming week, I'm planning on watching Choma Green Eagles versus Moza. I think that's one of the biggest games here in Southern Province. So I'll definitely make sure I see that game.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I'm in Kabwe, the capital of football right now. So I'll hopefully be watching Cabo Warriors this weekend. I'll also uh, be paying attention to how a certain Zanaco Football Club plays this week.